Okay, I'm hitting go live.
All right.
Okay, here we go.
Well, welcome everyone for an awesome evening of tying with Whiting Farms. We're extremely excited to have you. My name is John Demuth, and on the other side of the lens is Katie Demuth, my wife. She is the photographer of the bunch. And tonight we're going to talk about one awesome product from Whiting Farms. It is the Freshwater Streamer Hackle. This is a really cool, well, hello, Trout Maharishi. Nice to see you from the mountaintop. So we're working on a couple technical things real quick. Cool, got that figured out. All right, so tonight we're going to talk about the Freshwater Streamer Hackle. We're going to tie up this half and half and show you a couple different tying techniques for using this hackle with that. It can be used on a lot of different flies as well. This is a relatively new product that Dr. Whiting has come out with, and the really nice thing, the reason it's Freshwater Streamer Hackle, is the feathers, the length is shorter than some of the other ones they had, so it makes it much more of a prime candidate for a lot of your smaller streamers, which typically be freshwater. However, when Katie and I head to the beach and head to the beach to fish, this half and half is probably our number one fly that we tie and catch a lot of redfish and speckled trout with this fly. So even though it's freshwater streamer, we find it works really well for saltwater streamers as well. So, well, hello, Chagaz from Brunswick. Nice to see you on here. So speaking of which, if you all have any questions as we are tying along, feel free to ask them, and we'll get to it. So first of all, with the freshwater streamer, like I said earlier, this is the fibers and the feathers are a little bit shorter than the standard. Now, why does that matter for us as a tyer? And the main reason is, as we look at a particular feather here, the length of it is correct. So why would I not want to use just a really long feather and cut it in half and tie it on? That's because the stem, as it gets closer to the skin, the stem gets thicker. So hey Ed, cool. I'm glad you're looking forward to this. And yes, Trout, this is a Bob Clouser and Lefty Cray hybrid. So the stem gets thicker as it gets closer to the end. So what we don't want to do is take our feather and cut it here and tie it in by this point here, because it's going to make the feather a lot easier to roll around and not be able to tie it in straight. So if I can take my feather and tie it in by the base, I'm able to get a much better tie-in point and keep it straight to where I want it to be, if that makes any sense. Hey Ed and Fred, yeah. So let's get to tying, and I'll show you some of the tricks with this product. So we'll set this aside, and we'll start off with a size 1, and this is a Arex SA 220. So this is a saltwater streamer hook. And number one thing when you get started is put your hook in the vise straight. I found that definitely helps with the tying process. So when Katie and I do our live demos and shows on Wednesday night on Instagram, I always talk about proportions are key with when you're tying a fly, and that all starts with where you put your thread on. That first material, your first thread wrap is so important because that just if you put your first material on wrong, then the whole fly is wrong. So you really want to pay attention to where we start the thread. So I'm going to look at starting my thread about a third of the way back from the hook eye. So roughly right there. And I'm just going to start it here. And cut it off. The Quilted Tires said hello, Katie.
Hello.
We haven't seen her in a while.
Hey guys, hello everybody.
Yes, Katie's back here, and she's...
This is a little different because on Instagram we are, our hands are pretty tight as far as live streaming goes, so we're always using our phone to live stream. And this is kind of neat because I am actually using my DSLR camera to stream tonight, which is new for me, but also kind of fun to learn something new. So, hey everybody, glad you're watching.
Thank you, Katie. So what I'm going to do, I've got the thread started about the third point on the shank. I want to take my eyes, and on the ones we posted today, they were size small eyes. I'm going a little bit bigger on the hook on this one, so I'm going to go with the size medium eye. So I just put them on, and I'm going to do 15 wraps. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So you see it's locked in there, all crooked as all get out. That's perfect. So I'm going to get them right here. I'm going to straighten them out. And I'm going to put another 15 go in the opposite direction. And pull tight on what those 15 are going to do. And I actually lost count. That's what I get for talking and tying at the same time. So those 15 or so, roundabout, are going to straighten the eyes out. So I'm going to look right now and make sure that the eyes are straight this way. And I'll look down the hook shank and make sure they're straight that way. And now I'm going to lock it in with some helicopter wraps like so. What's up, Jimmy? Good to see you and Brian.
Brian.
So I'm going to put another 5 or 6 going that way, 5 or 6 going this way, maybe. And we're going to go around it again. So now we've got our eyes in there. They're nice and tight. They're not going anywhere. So our first material. So the feathers are going to go off right about to right about here, and it's going to be a little bit more than roughly 2 hook shanks coming back roughly. So I like putting a little bit of bucktail here because that gives it a little bit of stiffness. It helps keep the fly together as it's in the water, and help to keep its shape. So I'm gonna get a small pinch of bucktail here. And like I said, we just want a small one. It's probably a little too much, but I'm gonna take it, grab it by the tips, pull out all this junk right here, throw it away. I don't want much. And if I had any long fibers here, I'd pull them out, but actually I don't. So we're looking pretty good. So I want to measure the tail. And this doesn't need to be the total length. My feathers are going to extend past this, so not a big deal whatsoever. So cut this off. Hello, Susan. Sean, I'm glad you made it too. Can't believe you almost forgot. So I'm gonna hold this bundle on the top of the hook shank here. I'm gonna do a loose wrap like so and pull straight up. And I'm just gonna wrap back. And once I get to the very back, I'm going to leave that last wrap a little bit loose because I don't want to flare this out too awful much, but I do want it on the top of the hook shank like that. So just like that. So now let's talk feathers. So Katie, if you want to zoom us back out. So with this saddle, it has nice webby feathers, and the way the feathers are shaped is from the middle, they're pretty straight. And this, because they're so flexible, this tip doesn't apply too much to this, because you can just grab them from wherever. But if you want to get a perfectly paired set, you can get one feather from this side, one feather from this side. So when you match them up like so, they'll have the same bend to them, and they'll be just right. Or you can just focus on getting them right from the middle. So for this fly, we're going to use 2 feathers on both sides. And what I talked about earlier about the length of the feather is if my feather was this long and I put it on my fly, I'd have to cut it off so much, so I'd be tying it in. My tying point here would be a really thin hackle stem, and I don't want a really thin hackle stem to tie it in. I want something a little beefier to tie it in. So what we've got to, I went ahead and pre-pulled off some feathers. So here's some feathers pulled off of this saddle right here. And as you can see, if I tied the whole feather in, it's going to go this long. So I'm not having to cut much of it off. So my tying point here is going to, the stem is going to be a lot thicker here than if this was a really long feather and I had to tie it in by this really thin part of the stem here. And I hope that makes sense to you, because sometimes I don't make sense to myself. So anyway, so alrighty. So what I want to do to prep these feathers, I want to get them all the same length. So I'm going to hold them up like so. I want to get my tips lined up absolutely perfectly. And this is going to save time in the end. So just pull them down so they're all lined up, like so. So now you can see my tips are lined up. I'm going to get my measurement, see how long I want all the feathers to be. Make sure our tips are still lined. You're good. And that's about how long I want it, right about to there. So I'm going to pinch it right here. I'm just going to make a cut right there. So as you can see, I cut some of the fluff off. Let me get a piece here. Yeah, there's a piece sitting here right here perfectly. So I cut some of the fluff off, but see how thick the stem is here, and it starts to get smaller. So my tying point is going to be where the stem is getting smaller, but it still has some body to it. So that's what we're looking for. That is absolutely perfect. So I'm going to take these 4 feathers that I just cut, the exact same length. I'm going to grab 2 of them, like so. I'm going to match them up so they're lined up still, match where I cut them off, just like that. And I'm going to bring my thread back to my tying point with the bucktail, excuse me. So now I'm going to cut off. Now I don't like to strip this off because I want to leave some butts here to give my thread something to bite into. But also don't really, if I wanted to, I could just tie it in just like that, not do anything. It's not a big deal, but I want to make it look a little bit nicer. So I'm just going to cut off here and cut off there. So as you can see, I still have quite a bit of the butts there. You can just touch more. So I still have quite a bit of the barbs there for my thread to bite into. And we're good. And I'll hold it at a bit of an angle. And I just put a couple wraps and I check my work. And see how the 2 feathers are lined up. They're facing inboard. I'll go ahead and lash those the rest of the way down. That looks good. They're facing inboard. What I mean by that is I'm going to have the 2 feathers on either side facing each other. So I'm going to flip this around and we'll do the same thing. And because I cut them the same length, I don't have to really do a whole lot when it comes to measuring. So I'm going to cut that off here. Cut that off here. You want to make sure you don't cut your stem when you're doing this, because that will not be good, like I just did. Ha! Don't do what I just did. How about that? So we'll pretend like I've got a big stem here. And we'll tie this one on first. If you do that, it's not the end of the world. You just tie it in just like that. Make sure we're straight just the way we want it. So this is why I like having that the piece of stem here, like this, because I can hold it right where I want it. Just like so. So now we have our 4 hackle feathers sitting side by side. They're facing inboard, and we have a nice tail that's supported by that little bit of deer hair, the bucktail. Hey, JC. Robert, you here now?
Hey, JC.
I always do that. Well, you know what? To the quilted tire, if I don't mess up at least once, you'll know there's something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm surprised I haven't cut my thread yet or done something crazy. But speaking of crazy, and what I didn't do is on the last ones, the ones we posted for this show, we forgot to put flash on it. So we are not going to forget to put flash on it today. I might even over flash it. Who knows?
And I even picked out some really special flash.
Yes, Katie did pick out some fancy pants flash. This is the color of this is Henry's Fork Mix, and this is Semper Flash. But what it is, I cut four fibers off, and I'm going to split it in half. Roughly split it in half. Wrap it on my thread here. Make sure the ends are lined up relatively straight, and they are. I'm going to start it, then I'll let go. I'm going to take the bit on this side, hold it up, have it go down that hackle stem, then we'll bring the rest of it over and around, just like that. So now we've got some nice flash on there. Check the length of it. I like for it to go a little bit past the hackle, so just like that. So now we're talking.
Trauma Rishi asked the question, bucktail helps with tail wraps?
So the bucktail, not necessarily the tail wraps, but with that bucktail there in the middle, it's going to give the tail the fly, because that bucktail goes about this far. It's going to give the tail of the fly a little bit more body, so it's not going to flop around as much. We still have in the back nothing but flash and feather, but it helps the transition of basically the taper of the fly. So as opposed to it just all the material being here with the 2 bucktail wings going on top and bottom, we have this little bit of bucktail here. So I don't know if I've seen anyone do that or not, but it kind of makes sense to me to put that in there. And like I said, to help with the taper, help the transition. It does, as far as the wraps, if you have a little bit more structure on the hook shank here, it does give you a little bit more material to bind your feather to. So it makes it where it is a little bit easier to keep everything nice and straight.
Probably a little more durable too.
Possibly. I like where you're thinking. Swimming action. Hey, I like the swimming action part of it. So, all right. What's next? We need to tie in some wire. So I'm going to get a little gold wire, because we're going to basically tie a woolly bugger next. Basically, because we want to talk about that transition. So most half and halves you see, this is only feather on it. They might wrap some flat braid here, maybe a little dubbing, maybe nothing. But they'll just go from here and they'll put the bucktail on top, bucktail on bottom, and that's pretty much it. But what we're going to do is we're going to put a little dubbing here. We're going to wrap, we're going to palmer another one of these hackle feathers on around, and then counter wrap it with wire. They'll secure it, and that's going to once again move towards that transition. We're building that taper on this fly, so we're going from just that really just flash to flash and hackle to flash, hackle, and bucktail. And now we're on the shank of the hook, and there'll be the bucktail going here, and we're going to have dubbing. And it's going to be just, the main reason I like to put the dubbing here is for protection of the hackle stem. So when I wrap this, if there wasn't dubbing, if a fish tooth or something gets in here, even though it's going to be counter wrapped with wire, it can get into the hackle stem. So that dubbing is going to give the hackle stem something to sink into and help to protect the fly a little bit more. So with that said, I'll bring this just big open spiral wraps. We'll take our wire and we'll tie it on the what will be the bottom of the fly. Just like this. It doesn't have to be perfect. If you want to wrap it around, you can. But the reason I tied it on the bottom is because now I can grab it here and pull it up. So now this piece of wire is ready for me to capture the hackle stem. So that is good. And hey, Mike, rib the hackle. We're going to rib the hackle for sure. So I'm going to use some fluorescent hot pink UV ice dough. And like I said, I don't really want a really big, bushy body. Because the more stuff, the more materials that aren't pushing water, that isn't adding much to the profile, that just gives it some more more space to soak up water, and that just makes the fly heavy and hard to cast. So with the bucktail, with this hackle, it's not going to absorb a lot of water, and the water will literally just sling off of it, so you don't have to worry about casting that water. But with dubbing, it soaks in a little bit more and makes it to where it makes the fly a little bit harder to cast when it gets overwhelmed and heavy. So now we've got our dubbing here started, ready to go, and we'll start right at the base, and we just want to smooth. If anything, it can taper and get a little bit bigger. And with dubbing, because this is a bigger fly in our book anyway, you don't have to put basically count the dubbing fibers, but I'm not putting a whole lot on at a time. So this is all the dubbing that I'm putting on at a time. And when you basically, if you start getting dog legs or the dubbing's not going go on your thread, not twisting around your thread like you would want to, more than likely it's because you just have too much dubbing on your thread. So we'll bring this around some more, making sure we're getting a nice little taper. And this dubbing like this versus just slapping a whole bunch of dubbing makes it a lot more durable, makes it a lot smoother and a lot nicer. But hey, if you want to slap it on, slap it on. So bring it just like this, and pull that one off, tighten it up, because I do want to give myself a nice tie-in point for that hackle. Put just a little bit more on here. No, not that much. I said a little bit, dude. All right. So now we've got that dubbed on. Bring this around like so. All right, now we're set. So now we've got another hackle feather here from this cape. Now, as you look, if you want to zoom out a smidge, just like on a dry fly cape or most capes, at the top of the capes or saddles, excuse me, at the top, the feathers are going to be shorter and thinner. And as you go down and at the bottom, they're going to be a lot more sloppy. They're going to be have a lot more web in them. They're going to be a lot wider and a lot longer. So the four that I pulled off for the tail section was right about in the middle section here, and this one is down in towards the bottom of it. So this is the perfect length. I wanted a big, thick, long fibered feather. That way it'll kind of create a veil that goes over and works on this transition point. So this is exactly what I wanted. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and trout the white on a dubbing loop, because it just takes for me it takes a little bit more time, but you can definitely do a dubbing loop, no problem at all. JC, I fish this. I personally, and Katie personally, fishes this fly for redfish and for speckled trout, depending on where we're fishing it. Or excuse me, if we're fishing it in a bay, we'll have heavy eyes on it. If we're fishing in current, want to go down deep and swing. If we're fishing it in shallower water, sometimes even dumbbell eyes are fine, because we just want bead chain eyes. Bead chain eyes are fine because we just want a real thin, a slow fall rate. So I hope that answered your question. So I've got this here, and I'm fine if I've got a little bit of the fluff right here where I started. No problem at all. And to tie this in, so you can see this is a great looking, for palmering this around, this is a great looking feather. It has a lot of web. That's going to lay back nice. Just a perfect feather for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold it at an angle like so, to where the strip part is just right there, right behind the dumbbells. I'm going to put one wrap here. You see that wrap rolled it forward. So now it's sitting there ready to wrap the way I want. Then I bring another wrap around like so. So I've figure eighted that hackle in there. And I want this thing to be bomb proof. So I'm going to bring it up a couple wraps here. If I want to, I can trim it off now, but I don't. I'm going to go ahead and tie off the stem right here. And I can wiggle it off and break it off like that. So if it doesn't break off real easily, you can always just reach in and cut it. But so now I've got the hackle stem tied in and wrapped under the eyes, and it's completely lashed down. So it's not going anywhere, and that's exactly what we want. Oh yes, and I'm sorry, whoever JC I think asked that. So that's what we personally fish it for. The nice thing, the awesome thing about this fly is, and the clouser or deceiver variations, it works everywhere. So, well, pretty much everywhere. Bass, trout, saltwater, freshwater, you name it. This is just a solid all-around fly that you can show up just about anywhere with some good clousers, deceivers, or half and halves, and find success with that pattern. So anyway, sorry to not fully answer that question. My bad. Okay, so when we palmer this, we've got a couple options. I can use my rotary vise and palm it around, or just go ahead and do it by hand, which is fine. So I'll put one full wrap around the very front. You can see right now I've got one full wrap, but actually it's only half a wrap of fiber, so I'm going to bring it back down to here. So now I've got a full wrap here. And now I'm going to bring it around, and with nice even wraps here, palmer this up. Just like so. So now we've got this nice, and like I said, this webby stuff here, or the little bit of fluff here in the front, that is completely fine. If I wanted to, the hackle, the feather was long enough that I didn't have to do that. I could have stripped it off, but I like the fluff here. So now I'm gonna take my wire. So all it is, palmer that forward, right? Makes sense. So I'm going to take my wire, and I'm going to do one wrap here, and now that the hackle stem is captured. But I like putting a second one just for extra security right there. So now it's double wrapped. I know it's probably overkill, no need to do that. And just for the sake of time and everything, I'm going to put it in my bobbin holder, and I'm just going to spin this around. Just like this. So now we have now I have the hackle locked down, and you could have done it just by hand. And one of the tricks with I can't remember who I heard say this, but one of the tricks with running wire through hackle, whether it's dry fly or streamer hackle like this, woolly bugger, whatever, is pretend like you don't have the hackle there. Wind it quick. If you want to wiggle it back and forth as you're winding, that's fine. But the biggest thing is just pretend like you don't have it and wrap it in there. And because you're going to trap fibers, but if you try not to trap fibers, and if you're like really uneasy about how you're doing it, get it in there, you're going to trap more fibers than you would otherwise. So, all right, so now I've got that tied in. We've got this little piece here. I could pull a Davy McPhail and just grab it and snap it off, but I prefer to get in with my scissors and cut it off because I'm a wimp. I said it. All right, so just for the fun of it, I'm going to pull out my Velcro brush here. Let's make sure we're getting tied down, and we'll move this to the front just for the time being, and we can rough this up. So if you can't do this with your hackle, with your tying, then work on your tying hackle. And all I'm trying to do is just kind of blend in that ice stove. I'm not trying to pick it out so much, but I'm trying to get all this stuff to where it's blended in nicely. That good tip on the wire. Well, thank you, Trout. Was Charlie the one that said that? It probably was. That sounds like something he would say, and I've definitely watched him tie a couple times. So, okay. So now we've got the hackle wrapped in, and don't worry too much if it doesn't look absolutely perfect, because that's kind of the whole purpose of this right here, is to transition from our tail. We've got our nice, because this is the way the fly is going to ride. Now we have really the body of the fly, or we'll call it the belly of the minnow. So now we got that there. So that looks pretty cool. But hey, we need some more flash, right? Katie, right? All right, so I'm going to pull off, because there's already a pretty good amount of flash in the back, I'm going to pull, actually I'm not, I'm going to wait for a second. We're going to tie in some deer hair, some more bucktail. We're going to stick with the chartreuse on the bottom. Now, a funny story about I used to tie them with the pink on the bottom and chartreuse on top, and we did fine with them, caught fish with them, no big deal. I always thought that the pink on the bottom was supposed to be like bleeding gills or something, and it attracted the fish. And then I had a guy get on me and tell me I was tying them completely wrong. I'm like, really? Because this is... So now I tie them both ways. I don't think it really... I know the fish will eat them both ways. That is for sure. So now I'm going to pull off a clump of bucktail. This is fluorescent chartreuse bucktail. And to clean it, I'm going to hold it by the tips, splay it out like so. Hope you can see that part. And so now it's clean. Now Katie's looking at the desk saying, oh my gosh.
I know, I just cleaned it.
You're supposed to put that in the trash can. So my tips, you can see here where there's no like really long air and fibers. And that's perfect. That's what we want. We'll pull off a few more of these and put these in my quilted tire trash can.
That's where your stuff should go.
I know, isn't that?
But
It's
somehow
amazing.
I look over sometimes from my computer and I see you fling it behind your shoulder or just sort of rush it into the wind.
Oh, honey.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so now I'm going to cord up my thread a little bit to give it a little bite. I'm going to bring it up to the eye, and I'm going to bring it back. So I did put an extra wrap here, an extra wrap there, but all on purpose. But now I've got thread here, so my bucktail and everything has a little something to bite into. I've got my pinch here, and I want to measure, make sure that lengthwise we're right, because I don't want, if my bucktail was super duper duper long, I definitely don't want it to go back here. Like I said, we're going for that nice taper. So this is perfect. So now I'm going to take this, throw it everywhere back. That's right. That's what a vacuum is for.
That is true. And I have a nice little hand back.
So all I'm going to do now, I'm going to put it in the trash can. I'm just going to cut right here and cut the butts off to even them up. Just like so. So now I've got them evened up here. So we're going to hold this cord this up a little bit. Hold it at an angle, just touch. I'm going to touch the bucktail right to the base here. And I'm going to bring this around. Yeah, let's do it a little better. Bring this around like so, and not putting any pressure on it yet. Okay. So now I'm going to make sure that the bucktail right here isn't covering up the eye before I pull down. If I need to, I can adjust the bucktail with my left hand, my material hand. Right now it looks good, so now I'm going to pull up tight. And this is where I don't want to do overlapping wraps. I just want to do touching wraps going all the way to that hook eye. And I'm holding that bucktail up and over the eye right there. And that looks pretty good. Let me get rid of that one extra wrap I did. Put it right back here. So that looks fine just like that. Cool. So now I'm going to take my thread and I'm going to go straight back under the eye. And I'm going to bring it, so now my thread is just sitting here behind the eyes right there. I'll make sure my hackle's nice and out of the way. And one thing I want to do when I tie the bucktail in is I want to make sure that the bucktail sits like this and doesn't wrap around, because I put a nice little palmered hackle there, and the last thing I want to do is have it covered up like that. So I pull my fibers back. I'm going to go up and around a couple times. I'm going to hold that bucktail up as I pull down. And I can put a nice little band, because a little pink band there never hurt anyone. So just like that. And I'm going to bring my thread back up to the hook eye. So you can see I brought it back up. I'll do a couple wraps there. Okay. Making sense so far? I hope so. So I'll pull this down, make sure we're still looking nice. And here's where we're going to put our flash in. Now I'm going to get four strands, or 5, but I'm going to shoot 4. I'm just not going to spend 5 minutes trying to count out 4. So here we go. So now we've got our 4 strands of flash. This is that same Henry Sport color that Katie picked out, because she's a good color person. I want to measure these so that these two go just barely past the hook bend here, or roughly past the hook bend. We'll fold it over like so. Bring it and drop it down right there behind the hook eye. Make sure that it's going to right about there. So now I can get my long ones and do 2 on either side of the hook point, like so. So now I've got our flash in there, and this we can cut it the same length or a little shorter, however you want. So now I got that done. Now when you go to pink, get that pipe in here. Good. Okay. Well, thanks, Jimmy. This is our first time ever tying live on Facebook. So cut us a little slack. We go live every Wednesday night, and we love doing that. But Facebook's got a few tricks up its sleeve. Right, Katie?
Yeah, it's like I said, I always enjoy learning something new, so this has been an adventure, and I appreciate Tom and everybody at Whiting being patient while I educated myself on live streaming with my DSLR.
Absolutely. And Sean, yes, I'll show you exactly where it is. So you should be able to see here the bucktail that I tied for support, and this wing itself is going just a little bit longer than that. So yeah, it sure is. And you can play with it. Maybe you want the back to go longer, and that's fine. That's fine too. Okay, now bring my thread where I want to tie that in, which is right there. So I did lay this out and pulled out my short fibers here. Now, one thing that I did learn somewhat recently, I always tried to keep my top wing the same length or a little bit longer than the bottom wing. But I've since learned from Bob Klauser that it needs to be the same length or a little bit shorter. So it's okay if it's a little shorter, but you don't want it to be longer on top, which that was kind of the opposite of what I originally thought. So let's just make sure we got this good and clean so there's nothing bad with it. So now we're going pink. And this color combo is awesome. This is the electric chicken color combo or the tutti frutti color combo. I believe they're both roughly the same. Okay, so now I've got that correct. You see I'm just measuring that right there. Now I'll pinch this here. Nice straight cut. I will bring this back to here. Okay, so we'll tie this in the same way. I will make sure my thread is corded up nicely, because a corded up thread is much stronger than a really flat thread. When we get a whip finish and we're trying to make the head look nice and smooth and pretty and everything, we'll cord it up, or we'll smooth it out. But for right now, I want this thread to bite into this to the bucktail. So remember, no pressure or very little pressure here. Adjust it, push it down, pull up tight, and I want them to touch here. And it's not my best ever, but we will call that one done once I get this part. Okay. So I'll pull this back. So you can see you got the palmered hackle that's sticking out the sides going to come and help all that flow together. You're going to get everything good. So I'm going to uncord my thread a bit so I can have a nice smooth head here. Oh, there's a bump. I'm going to build up just a little bit here. That'll be fine. Okay, so one last thing on the whip finish. We don't want to just stack up the whip finish as we've been really careful to make a nice looking fly. So we want to have our wraps consecutively go up the hook shank. And we'll do one more set here. Right to the back. And that's perfect. Did not break where I tied the knot in. I'm going to cut that off there. And now we are ready to look and see how we did and trim off this one piece of flash. But look and see how we did. When I go to finish this with head cement or UV resin, I want to make sure that I put resin obviously around the head here, and that'll make that look all nice and smooth and pretty. But also right here. So I've put some head cement on these thread wraps here, and these and the bucktail that goes under the eyes here, because this is going to be the weakest spot on the whole fly. And not that it's a weak spot, but as the fly is getting dragged through sand or bouncing off rocks or moving along everywhere, that's where it's going to hit everything first. So you want to make sure you definitely don't forget to put glue or resin or something right there. So this is our little variation of the. I don't think I've ever seen someone palmer hackle through the body of it, but it's our variation of the half and half. One of the good things about this fly is it has a nice narrow profile going this way. And as Bob Klauser says, that narrow profile is going to help it dart side to side and be really fishy. So you can see you got your hackle on the sides, hackle in the back. Here is our completed half and half. So with that said, we'll stay on for another minute or two more if anyone has any questions. This was the highlight of the day, was this freshwater streamer hackle. So if there's any questions about this product, let us know. Otherwise, feel free to hop in with us on Wednesday nights as we always find a new fly and tie something up. So we'd love to see you guys more often. Well, thanks, Trout. I appreciate that a lot. As far as fishing this fly, the weight management, the eyes, size of the eyes, size of the hook really dictates obviously the weight of it and the sink rate, and it just depends on the application on what you want to do with it. So thanks, Ken. Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Scott. We really appreciate seeing everyone here. And I wish Katie could come over and say hello, but she's doing this number and doing this number. But
hey guys.
I'm going to get her to come on next Wednesday with us. So thank you guys. Thank you to Whiting Farms for letting us come and do this little presentation and talk about seriously, it was a no-brainer for us when we were talking about the freshwater streamer. That this is a great fly that we fished a lot and we love to tie. So one of the things that I will point out is a lot of stuff that I said that I explained. The reason I know is because I've made the mistake before. That's the best way to learn, is to learn from your mistakes. So we try to make it where you guys don't have to learn from your mistakes. You learn from my mistakes. So guys, thank you so much. It's been awesome seeing everyone here tonight. We look forward to seeing you again soon. And thank you again to Whiting Farms.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
We hope you all have a wonderful night. Thanks for watching.
Absolutely. We will see you later. And if you got any questions, feel free to let us know offline. Thanks, guys.